Welcome, everybody. We're hoping this works. John Aravosis, Unpresidented podcast. Our first Zoom, and I'm sweating like a pig because I'm so freaked out about this. Oh, my God. Our guest today, Maria DeCotis. Maria, Cliff is here too, sorry. But I figured.
Yeah, I'm here also.
I figured because you can see Cliff now, I didn't actually have
I'm
to
just
say.
being a wise ass. Go ahead, John.
Cliff Schechter. So
never let them see you sweat, though.
Well, hopefully they can. Our guest today is Maria DeCotis. Maria, we wanted to have on because we were hoping to have somebody a little lighter than our usual "we're all going to die"ness. And Maria, you will know, is a New York comedienne who has been doing a series of videos of New York Governor Cuomo that have really gone viral. And we just thought it'd be fun to have her on and talk a little bit about it before we get into all the nasty stuff, or maybe we get into the nasty stuff with her. Who knows? So, Maria,
we have to try to find whatever funny stuff we can find in the nasty stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, Maria, your job this episode is going to be to make coronavirus funny.
And Minneapolis, that's hilarious. We want you to make that hilarious for everybody.
Oh my God! Please
Sorry.
don't make that my job.
No, it is not. Sorry. Welcome. I cut that off. Thank you for
Personal point. I have my daughter Mariah, who is with me, and she is the third daughter for me. The last thing they want to do is hang out with Pop, right? And Mariah brought her boyfriend, who's also here. The boyfriend is very nice, and we like the boyfriend. Advice to fathers. The answer on what you think of the boyfriend is always, I like the boyfriend, always. Because there's only two options. Either you like the boyfriend, in which case you say, I like the boyfriend, or you don't like the boyfriend. But you can never say you don't like the boyfriend. I learned this lesson the hard way. Otherwise, it triggers NDS. NDS is natural defiance syndrome. It's not documented, but it is a psychological condition where if you say as a father, I don't like him, natural defiance syndrome kicks in, and then they like the boyfriend more because he is opposed by the father. So the answer has to be, I like the boyfriend. In this case, I actually like.
Now back to our new friend, Maria.
Our new friend, Maria. So what the hell happened? But I mean, how did this even come about? I mean, you were in New York, you're a comedian there, you got some inspiration about doing Cuomo. How did this come about even?
So, I mean, basically when the pandemic started and we were on lockdown, my roommate was watching his briefings pretty regularly. So I would kind of pop my head in her room and watch them sometimes. And, then I saw the one from April 19th, which is the one my first video is based off, when he goes on that long tangent about his daughter's boyfriend. And I just was immediately hooked. I could not take my eyes off of him. I was riveted, if you will. And I just kept, I was just like, what is anyone else like seeing this right now? And I just thought it was so funny. And I just feel like I identify with him a lot just because I come from an Italian family, and he just reminds me of my dad and all of my uncles, and especially his interactions with his brother reminds me so much of my dad and his brothers. Yeah. My dad has 3 brothers, so they're always busting each other's balls. And
John and I are ethnics too, so we get it.
I'm Greek, he's Jewish, so we've got
we all yell at each other around the table, kind of like
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
We're all in that same Mediterranean family.
Exactly.
So, so I just saw it, and it was just so funny, and I wanted to do something with it because I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I was making other videos, but I had never done the lip syncing thing. Right. But I saw on TikTok people doing a bunch of lip syncing, and then I saw Sarah Cooper's videos of her doing Trump.
I was going to say, that's the one who did Trump, right? That was great.
She's the famous one of Trump, Trump ones, which are fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, why don't I just try something like that? It seems like it's catching on. It's a form that people are doing. So I tried it, and then I wanted to show something visually, a different story than what he was actually saying, because I just felt like there was so much going on underneath that big little crisis.
Noggin?
Yeah. So and that's how it started, basically.
Oh my God. And did you put it first, did you do Instagram, or how were you using to post it?
So I posted on Instagram and Twitter, and yeah, and then Twitter is where it really like took off.
Are you from New York, Maria?
My parents are from Utica, but I'm from Atlanta. I was born and raised there.
Okay, I grew up in New York, so I live out in the Midwest now. Long story, but it's the you have that kind of Cuomo thing, I think, where you can get, but I mean that may just be the Italian family too. It could be either or both.
Yeah, I think it's my parents just like, because I spent a lot of time in Utica when I was growing up. We would go up there a lot and like see my family. So
do you still go there?
Yeah, sometimes.
One of my best friends, literally, seriously, and a business partner of mine in political work, the way I kind of relocated because the love of a good woman out to Cincinnati, also grew up in New York, and he ended up in New York City, and he's in Utica. I talk to him like every day. Is that like a distilling company over there, Adirondack Distilling? So if you go up there, have a drink, it's my friend Jordan. Great
okay,
place.
Cool. Yeah, I do. I go up there sometimes, so I still have family there.
That's
so
awesome.
to what degree have these videos taken off? I mean, I loved them, but I assume when we were booking you kind of mentioned, oh yeah, I've done a lot of interviews. We could do Zoom, no problem. Has this kind of gone crazy, or were you always like famous New York comedienne?
Say you always were.
They've kind of gone crazy. I mean, I had done a few bigger projects, I guess, like nothing too, I mean, I did, like I opened for Mike Birbiglia on Broadway one night. So that was kind of like one of my big things that I did, but it wasn't to this degree. Like I wasn't getting asked to be interviewed and, like I'm getting asked to be interviewed by so many places that it's kind of overwhelming.
And you actually said yes to us?
Yeah, I did.
Wow,
So
clearly you hadn't seen the show.
What's the biggest interview? What's the biggest interview you've gotten? Actually, Cuomo should have you on CNN, or has he?
He really should.
He hasn't yet.
That would be funny.
John, we should start a pressure campaign.
I was just going to say,
I think I'm going to start doing it. We're going to be like, you have to have her on.
That would be funny, though, actually. And of course, and then have him slip in the brother at the same time. But yeah. Oh, my God. That's just crazy. What? Excuse me. There was an interesting article. You probably saw it, I'm guessing, but it was either the New York Times or the Washington Post talking about Sarah Cooper doing the Trump. And I don't know if it mentioned, I don't know if it mentioned you or not, but it showed another woman who was doing like a drunk, maybe they were all Trump. It was doing Trump impersonations. It was another woman doing sort of a drunk Trump, but in like some, 3 a.m. in the bar in her flashy outfit. But the way Trump was talking, it sounded like he was drunk. And she just thought, I'm going to have like a martini and it's going to be 3 a.m. and I'm at a club, like doing Trump, but just saying his words. And they were saying how a couple different things, I guess, how one was sort of this genre has just popped up. Second of all, about how it's female comedians and how interesting that is. Mm-hmm. And some of it was, some of it was just that they didn't think this would work with male comedians. That in fact, because you guys are women doing it, it's making it even
that makes
funnier.
It funnier, I think, definitely. Like that adds something to it, but I don't know.
I think it does too. I think also because we're taking like these powerful men's words and putting them in a body that like doesn't have that kind of institutional power. Right. And so we're kind of like, what if he was just like this drunk girl talking like this? No one would pay him any attention if he actually looked like, because, but that's what he sounds like. He sounds like a drunk girl at a club. So, yeah.
That's kind of funny. And what's funny is I never even made that connection. Being gay, I often have my sort of gaydar attacks when I hear him speak, just because there's so much of this going on. I feel like I'm watching Match Game from the 1970s, which even Cliff may be too young for.
I am, in fact.
But it's this sort of flamboyant, over the top.
Is that some form of gay-sploitation you're talking to?
Gay-sploitation. Excellent. There you go. No, Match Game only had Paul Lynde, who is a fabulous comedian, by the way. If do you know who Paul Lynde is, Maria?
Paul Lynde? Paul
Lynde, Lynde.
I don't know if I do.
Hilariously, clearly gay comedian from the 1970s. He was on Bewitched, which, tell me you know Bewitched.
Yes, I know Bewitched.
Oh, thank God. He was her uncle. He was her Uncle Arthur on Bewitched, but but a very sort of biting, bitchy comedian. Everything with him was always just biting, but hysterical. Anyway, we'll stop about my rant about Trump's effeminateness, but whatever. But in any case, it's funny because but at the same time, you guys do I mean, emasculating Trump is one thing. Cuomo doesn't need to be emasculated. Cuomo, it's more playing on the Italian side, I think.
Yeah, it's the gruff
when I see
sort of Italian, way of speaking that makes it funny.
Well, and the softness too, I guess, right? I mean, the boyfriend thing really is and you just had another boyfriend one that came out this week, maybe? I just saw it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really like making fun of him really, or I may be like disempowering him a little bit, but it's in like a vulnerable way. Like we care about it, I think. Like we see him say these things and we're like, oh, I identify with that.
It's kind of adorable. You never think of Governor Cuomo as adorable, but those
but he is.
These endearing, soulful, regular guy rants that, like you said too, at least from an ethnic background, that wouldn't be my dad, but it would be somebody, And actually, that would be my mom. My mom would be the one going off on some, and of course, then my mom would try to tell a joke where she would forget the punchline. And she'd literally go, oh, I forgot the punchline. You're like, Mom, why did you tell us all of this? Oh, I was trying. And it's just, it's funny. But I don't know. Are you, I don't want to make you go there if you don't want to, but are you much of a political person?
I mean, before this, I wasn't a political comedian. I mean, I have strong beliefs politically, but I'm not like, I wasn't really incorporating it that much into my comedy. I guess I would talk about, gender dynamics and equality and things like that in my stand-up, but I wasn't like this politician and their policies, because I don't think educated to the extent to where I can do that in politics.
But has that changed? You insinuated maybe it's changed now or not?
I mean, I have started to try to learn more, especially because I have all this attention on me from that world, from this like political realm, and a lot of journalists are looking at me. But I'm still not. They are. They're all looking at me and like waiting for me to do something.
Why are you looking at me?
I mean, yeah. So, but I guess like I'm still not really like politicizing what I'm doing with Cuomo. It's more just having fun with him as like an insecure, fumbling dad,
Right. Is a lot of your humor impressions, or is there like a certain type of humor that you tend to do more than others?
That's a good question. I do have a good amount of impressions that I have like videos of on Twitter and Instagram, but that was more of like, let me see if I can do this and like stretch myself as a performer, but it's not really like what I love to do. But yeah, I guess I'm more of like a stand-up and character actor.
Cool.
Let me we're going to take a quick break for an ad from Literati Books and then come right back.
Okay.
All right. Now we'll take a little break. 10:45, so I can find. It's an ad that we have to intersperse, which is going to be a lot of fun since I'm the producer too, and it's just living hell for a podcast that we don't make that much money on. But what the hell?
Don't you love doing everything, editing, hosting?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Actually, well, you know what? We'll just say the ad ended anyway now. But why? Do you find yourself having to do all that kind of stuff? Oh, of course. Why? With your videos, are you basically editing?
I'm doing everything. So
yeah, right.
Production. Well, you're the other.
And in this case, we have to book guests too, which is also. So thank you for being here.
Yes, but no, you're the boyfriend too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because I think in Sarah Cooper's, I think she's got a couple other friends that join in. I think.
On some of them, but she does play other roles too, yeah. Because
I remember she did the like Fauci or whoever with the mask on the face, kind of looking at Trump about the bleach going, you're like, no. But what can I ask you? I mean, and I don't want to get too deep on this, but I think some of what the article was getting at, and we've had comedians on before. Actually, we had my friend Andy Cobb, who's a Second City guy in LA, and his wife. And oh my God, what's her name? His wife. I've got to Google.
Oh, she's funny too. Yeah.
Shit. Well, no,
we had, and I'll never pronounce his last name right, even though I've had dinner with him before. Tony Adamunic, who does the great Trump impression.
Oh yeah, Tony.
Do you know Tony?
He's my friend.
Antonio.
All right, yeah. Tony's a great guy.
Yeah.
I literally met him in one of the weirdest situations in my life when I won't go into a long story, but I realized that Mark Hamill was following me on Twitter. And we ended up talking to each other, and I've done a lot of work. I used to go on TV a lot more, and he'd seen me. And before I knew it, I was able to take my family over to watch the filming of The Last Jedi, part of it. And,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was just insane. And we were over in London, and Anthony was doing his Trump. They had the Trump versus Bernie tour, and they were in London doing the Trump versus Bernie tour. And Mark, actually, they asked him if he'd be the like debate moderator. And then we all went out to dinner afterwards. I mean, again, still for me, one of the more surreal moments of my life.
That's so cool.
And Tony's he's been a good friend since then. Just great guy.
He is a great guy.
You know, where I was heading, I just looked up her name because I hate when people sort of do this. Mary Beth Monroe is Andy's wife, who is also a comedian, an actress out there in LA.
Okay.
And actually, I think she's more successful than Andy. I just have to throw that out.
Are you really saying that on our podcast?
I think so. I should say Mary Beth Monroe's husband, who you may not know, Andy Cobb. In any case, but what, you know, we hear a lot. I mean, those of us who try to hear these things, we hear a lot about how for female comedians it's harder. I did not know, for example, that, and apparently in your industry this is probably well known, that I forget who it was, but once upon a time it was the whole thing of women aren't funny. You can't be a female comedian. Women audiences won't find it funny. Right. And, you know, and even back then,
or if you are funny and you make sort of off-color jokes, which we encourage that on this show, by the way. If you do that kind of thing, then it's like, oh, well, she's not ladylike. And, you know, I mean, it's like you get caught in all the sort of sexist stereotypes where it's almost like you can't win, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely have felt when I've been doing stand-up in certain places, there's just like an attitude in the room that you can feel when you go up that people have decided they're not going to laugh at you, like no matter what you say, just because like you're a girl. Still. I remember I did this one open mic. It was like all men. There were like a few other women and me. And then every time a woman went up, like no one laughed. And then the guys, every time every guy went up, like the crowd went wild. And then this one gay guy went up and he called everyone out. He was like, hey, first of all, y'all need to check your sexism. Every time a woman gets up here, you don't laugh. It was amazing. It was so good. I was like, yes, he's an ally. But it was really good. And then obviously they didn't laugh at him either, you know.
Well, we count as women in that regard, I guess, but yeah. That's really... I mean, and I don't mean to be naive about it, but when I heard that, I didn't even know it was that way years ago. I thought years ago that it would have been more just the overall sexism of we hire guys, we don't hire girls, you know, that kind of crap, but not that female comedians, I mean, and again, you know, we're the wrong audience because we're like big progressive political people from DC and Cincinnati, but DC via New York for Cliff.
I was in DC for a while.
So like when I think of female comedians, I mean, I go back to like when I was a kid, Joan Rivers and, oh my God, what's her name with the husband Wolf? Remember? Phyllis Diller. And Lucy. And Lucy. Oh my God. I mean, like, and maybe, but I also wonder, Cliff, like, were you into, like, that could have been my gay side liking them too? Because I mean, Phyllis Diller. I
love Lucy. I love Lucy and stuff like that. But the thing is like, still female comedians had to do it a certain way, right? I mean, even then she had to do it where she was like the goofy sort of like
self-deprecating
blonde. Well, no, she was the ditzy, goofy blonde who would always do stupid things, you know. And he'd be like, "Oh, Lucy," you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
She couldn't be like, you know, edgy. She couldn't be. I mean, women just could not do that, you know, at that time.
This is something. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, this is something like that I think about a lot when I'll go to open mics and stuff, because like I'll be trying out new material and I'll say something about just like gender inequality or something, and it makes men so mad. And I'm like, why are you mad that I'm like saying things are not equal? And then they'll come up and tell like a really bad rape joke, like rape joke off rape joke. And then they feel entitled to your laughter. And I'm like, okay, so it's okay for you to do that, but it's not okay for me to be like, to make fun of men, the way straight men put on chapstick. Like,
wow.
I'd like to see you make fun of that. And I'm a straight man. Yeah,
they can't put it on. They're like, they don't know where their lips are. First of all, they put it on like it's a crime. They're like, like they don't want anyone to see. Like if someone sees you put on chapstick, like you're gay.
What, they're like covering it up?
That's true. We have to hide that.
Actually, hold it like the Cool Marine cigarette thing.
Yeah,
like the
they literally hold it like it's a cigarette. Like they can't.
Oh
they don't know how to put chapstick on normally. So this is like me just making fun of straight men, and they're furious. But then they go up and they're like, women should get raped or whatever. Like they suck.
Right.
Wow.
No, you're so right about it. It's funny. See, I do the opposite because I'm a straight guy that likes to annoy right-wing straight guys.
Yeah.
So I purposely try to do feminine things and
Like wearing a mask.
Just to see exactly,
Yes.
like wearing a mask so I don't die. Just to see how uncomfortable I can make them, you know? So
It makes them, they get so uncomfortable. Yeah. That's the thing, is that there's a lot of like dodging men's discomfort as a female comedian.
Are you able to use that at all? Like can you then point it out and say, hey, making the guys uncomfortable and make it a little lighter? Or no, like you just lose them every time you go there?
No, I really lean into it. If they're like being uncomfortable, I call them out. Or like usually there's like a group of women that are laughing at everything I'm saying because they just don't get it. You know, like they just don't get. They're like, wait, women don't like when I bring my guitar out non-consensually. Like they just don't get that that's funny. And so like women are like going crazy, and I'm like, these ladies love me. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know, like I just kind of like go to the point of the room and like interact with them who are on my page, and we kind of gang up again.
You know, crazy thing to ask you, because, you know, I'm sure all you comedians know each other, but Alyssa Limperis, have you been watching her on Twitter?
Yeah, I actually
I love her.
Met her at UCB when she was like a UCB performer when I was studying.
What is UCB?
So that's the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in New York. It was started by Amy Poehler.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it was like her and 3 other guys who studied in Chicago brought it to New York. And
because Alyssa basically, I got sort of caught up. First of all, of course, her name looked Greek to me, and you know, we just were like a mafia as far as that goes. No, it is though. The Greeks were all like, you know, but then watching, she was doing these impersonations of her mother, and I think she's from Boston. She must be. And it was this Boston ethnic mom who, again, could be Greek, could be Italian, could just be Boston, you know, whatever. But she's hysterical doing her mom conversations. Her
mom videos are so funny. Yeah.
Now, what do you call it, impersonation, or what would you call what you do? Like, although hers is a little different than yours because you're actually lip syncing. Is it an impression?
I don't know what it is. I don't think it's an impression because, I don't know. It's hard to say. No one knows what to call it. I don't know either. It's kind of an impersonation, I guess.
Do you feel like you're cheating a little bit because all you're doing is playing his words? I mean, is that like
He's literally writing material for my one-woman show. Like, Cuomo is my head writer on my show.
That's really nice of him.
Yeah, it's so nice of him to write my material for me. Yeah, no, I'm literally just taking his stand-up and like putting it in my body.
How much practice does it take to be able to do the lip sync correctly? I would think that's not necessarily a skill you would have trained for as a comedian, right? Lip syncing.
No. It's a lot. It's I have to kind of map out what I'm going to do with the audio first. And then once I break down, like, okay, I'm going to do it in parts. I'm going to do it like 1/3 of it like this. Right. And then I'll just break it up into parts. I did challenge myself and do one in one take that was like a minute or something. And that took so long. I was like, never again. But I just wanted to challenge myself.
But how are you even listening to it? How are you doing it technically? So you can, are you just taping it live with his audio playing live out of a box?
Yeah, so I basically cut the audio in a Premiere file, and then I'll play it from Premiere and say it with Premiere, like as I'm filming. Okay,
I was gonna say, I'd be terrified of trying to get, I just can't, all of you have been so amazing with the syncing is what freaks me out. Because I've never even tried that. And you see people doing like lip sync on TV, and bad lip sync or even vaguely bad, it's I still got my TV on. That's funny. Hey, Google, turn off the TV. Oh, there we go. Now on my Google, you're going to love this. All right, I'm trying not to use sexist language. The Witch, it's a guy. My Google's a guy. It doesn't, it understands turn off.
Did you check, John? How do you know?
Yeah. It understands turn off, but it doesn't understand turn on. Because apparently, we've had this discussion before, most of the fucking country, including whoever's at Google, thinks the words on and off have the same O sound. So I tell it to turn on the fucking TV, and it goes, TV turned off. And it's like a sketch. You're going, oh my God.
So you can't
figure it out?
It doesn't.
It is a very hard, hey, Google, turn on the, wait, let's try this. Let's try this.
The difference between on and off.
Let's try this. Hey, Google, turn on the TV. No, it's not even hearing. Hey, Google, turn on the TV.
Okay, turning on Sonos.
Oh, fine. Now it's going to work. Okay. Hey,
Of
Google,
course.
turn off the TV.
Google
Now it's
just
getting
purposely trying to make you look back. As I was going to say, if they can't get the TV thing right, maybe that explains why the cars were running people over.
It drives me crazy. Of course, now it's going to leave it. Okay, seriously, I have it. Hey, Google, turn off the TV. Not an ad for Google here.
Google, record
Fucking
John's
God.
conversations
No,
for
but
Donald
anyway,
Trump.
but we had this whole discussion on Twitter where I was asking people because I said, what is going on? And most people on Twitter went, what do you mean the O's are different? Because apparently I'm from Chicago and we say on versus off. Off like awful, on like put upon or whatever. And they were like, that's not it. They're the same thing. And I'm like, they're not the same thing. But maybe a Midwestern, like, although a lot of our accents I find, I think parallel New York in some ways. Like, do you guys say on and off different?
There's an kind of accent in the Midwest. I've noticed since living here.
Absolutely. Wisconsin. Hello.
Yeah, there's different versions of it. Down further south where I'm in Ohio and Cincinnati, it's a little different. But it's,
you're rednecks down there.
Well, of course we are. But they're all they all come off of sort of the Chicago being the most the sort of hardest accent. And they're all kind of variations of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
anyway,
a New York
I don't know
area.
Why I got into this, but I got into this and I saw my TV on. Do you guys? I've always wondered. I should ask Andy more about this too. But like, do you just? I assume you have to be sort of innately funny to be a comedian. I don't mean that as a ridiculous kind of comment. What I mean is, you can't really train to be funny, can you?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
feel like there is something innate and intuitive, like for people who are comedians, like they just have that timing in their bones, or they just know when something is going to come around and be funny. But I think so many comedians grow a lot when you see them from the beginning of their career, and then you see like their stand-up way later, and they've just grown so much because you just keep practicing and you just get better. I think like you probably do have to have it inside of you, but it is a skill that you have to like keep developing and learning, because a lot of comedy is very, in my opinion, like formulaic, and like the more
I think it's like a lot of skills, there's like a spectrum where people start off, and I think obviously some people are much funnier than others, but if somebody who is somewhat funny works on it a lot and somebody doesn't, there's probably you can improve, you can get worse, that would be my guess. And then there are just some people, they're normally called Republicans, that just aren't fucking funny at all about almost anything.
But like all of their comedians, though, I don't know if you, again, we noticed this, but like all the comedians that go over to the dark side, they're usually just, it's like the actors. Most
like
of them
Dennis Miller, he was funny once, and he's like, and that's like the Queen of India, the Maharaja saying, poof, poof, and the clouds go. And you're just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He's not funny anymore.
He tries to make like 14 references in one thing, and you're like, I don't know, you lost me on the second one.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know.
Well, I think a big part, like, even though comedy is like, a lot of it is like making fun of people, I think the root of it is your perspective and like how you feel about something. It's like, you have to have a strong perspective and like a strong feeling on whatever you're talking about. And if you just kind of like, if you're a Republican and you're like staunch and you don't really care about Black people being killed by police, like, and if you don't care, you're not going to be funny if you don't have an opinion, or if you don't like
hopefully it's a tough topic to make funny anyway.
Finding racist murder acceptable, it's hard to be funny. But
but like in general, if you don't care about people,
what it is that here's what I'll just.
And then we got to do a quick ad, but I want you for a couple. And then but can we have you for a couple more minutes after this?
Sure.
Okay, Cliff, go ahead.
I'm just saying, it seems to me, and this is the best comedians, is that you're willing to you punch up first of all and take on those who are more powerful and mock them, and also you're self-deprecating and willing to punch yourself. Yeah. It seems like conservatives are only willing to punch down. Right. And like it's making fun of the people who are having a tough lot of it really isn't that funny to most of us.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. The punching up is key.
I know what I was going to ask you, because I think I asked Andy this too. Like, in politics, and Cliff and I both know this, but both of us have this. Both of us have this. We both done a lot of TV and TV of the political arguing TV. And one thing that is very helpful to do good TV as politics is learning a bit of sort of one-liner jabs. And it's usually, I mean, I say repartee. It's you said something and you kind of throw a funny line back. And it's responding to the person next to you, and it's usually just a quick funny line, funny clip. Sometimes it's inappropriate because it's like a serious thing, but it's something I think good politicos in DC are very good at. Whereas we can't just riff. I think riffing is very hard. You know, like, hey, be funny for 3 minutes, and you're going, oh, fuck me. Whereas I'll wait for you to say something stupid and make a joke about it, and Cliff and I are good at that, I think. But how do you know when you're going too far with your jokes? Do you? Have you had problems with that ever as a comedian, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that all the time. Like, I don't want to punch down. I think about that. Like, I always try to examine the joke and make sure that I'm punching up.
Right.
And also
explain to people what that means.
Yeah, so you don't want to ever make fun of the oppressed. Like, you want to make fun of the oppressor because they're the ones who are being ridiculous and don't care about people and are misusing their power. So it's always better to make fun of the oppressor. It's always necessary.
Yeah.
Not just better, necessary. And I think just audience reaction. I mean, as a stand-up, you're out there most nights of the week. You're getting lots of different reactions, and you just got to see how people react to it. And that's how you change your set, or you even change a word and then you make it better. It's just like constantly evolving. And I think it's just like trying it out. Like, you just have to be out there.
Has it ever gone bad?
I mean,
have you ever had something where you said, "Oh my God, what did I just fucking say"? Or no, you're not that out. You're not, what's her name? Who I also find hilarious. Lisa Lampanelli. No, Lisa Lampanelli. Sarah, I find funny. Lisa Lampanelli cracks me up.
Oh my God.
And she's so freaking rude. But but she also, I was asking Andy about that, like how, I don't know if you have an opinion on it, but I said, like, how does she get away with it? Because and we've gotten to be much more of a sensitive culture now, right? About these jokes. And then I was watching her. It was because one of the comedians recently had talked, I forget who he was, but had talked about like killing his son if he found out he was gay. And we were really outraged in the gay. Black comedian, pretty famous. I forget his name. This was 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, if I found out my boy was a fag, I'd kill him. And the audience is laughing and all of us are going, ah!
Not so funny.
Not so funny. But then there was pushback because people were like, oh, they're comedian. I think he might have even initially said, I'm a comedian. This is what we do. Blah. And just that we were trying to, and Andy mentioned, I think, Lisa Lampanelli, who I didn't know, and then I pulled her up and went, oh my God.
Sean, didn't I ever tell you that story? I mean, I got once to go on a Sirius satellite radio show. Right. And I was the political person, and they brought in other people that were much more famous than me and more interesting, to be honest. And Lisa Lampanelli was one of them.
Oh God.
And I just sit there next to her, as you're talking to our microphones as they're doing this, and the questions were, like, she found a way to answer. I'm just going to be honest, folks. If you want to get upset with me, go ahead. But she found a way to answer questions, with like, I love giving blowjobs to black men. And I'm saying
every single answer. Yeah.
How do I respond? What do I do here?
Me too. That's what I would have said. I would have gone, me too.
There's nothing I can say here that won't, with me and my profession, get me in serious shit. So I'm like sitting there and I'm looking around and hoping that someone else would jump.
Oh, it's literally.
But she's funny as hell. I mean, I found it hilarious.
People should Google it because it's its own genre. But Andy felt that she was so self-deprecating that she could get away with it because she talks about being fat or ugly or whatever it is. But I mean, she's going through the audience. She's speaking on the black guy, the Latino guy, and asking them what they do. And she's like, "Wait a minute, you the black guy. What do you mean you like work as cleaning staff? That's the Latino guy's job." And you're going, and she's like, "You're black. You're not supposed to be working at all." And literally, I'm quoting the thing. You're just going, "Oh my God!" And the audience is losing it. And I guess what I'm kind of throwing to you too is like, what makes it funny and acceptable versus somebody else saying things that then you go, because her stuff is just hilarious. And God, if she doesn't say things like Cliff said that on paper you might think, holy fuck, fire her.
Well, is it because she's self-aware about it? It's just because she knows that what she's saying is like actually like satirizing what someone really conservative or like prejudiced would say? Is that what you think it is?
I think it could be that,
Like
honestly.
she's self-aware about
It's
it.
clear she doesn't mean it. That's
Right.
the first one.
That's what I think is key, is that her persona was more conservative all
Don
the time.
Rickles, kind of. Is she Don Rickles in a way, but in its
Maybe.
own way?
I mean, I'm just saying, if people thought she really believed any of that, she'd be gone.
Yeah,
right?
that's the thing.
So,
I mean,
yeah. So it's probably that she's like, she's like kind of playing a character. She's like self-aware about it. It's
and
not
she's
what
making
she
fun of
actually
herself, as you said. She's being self-deprecating about it, like, I'm ridiculous, in a kind of way that but that's a hard thing to pull off. She's good at it.
That's Archie Bunker, Cliff. I mean,
but that's the point, is if you fail
how
at
could you do that today?
Because again, I feel like she's going after herself, and that's why Archie Bunker never, even if everybody found him to be hilarious, he was never making fun of himself. He was going after every group.
But of course, the whole show was making fun of Archie.
Well, we know,
got that,
But we knew that, but I don't think it was as evident to as large a crowd of people as what, I don't know. I don't know. And part of it also is different time. Back then, you could say whatever the fuck you wanted to. I mean, in the late 60s or 70s or 70s and early 80s, let's be honest, like, you could do what Archie Bunker did. Different thing today. You could never do that.
Yeah. Which is also, I mean, not to get too meta here, but it's also fascinating because, what Archie was saying was more acceptable because it was racist, and he'd go after Jews too, and gays, right? It was bigoted, but at the same time, it was so provocative because the show was obviously making fun of people who were bigots, so that it ended up, it's almost like you said, like when you make your jokes about guys, Maria, where it at the same time, it's funny. I mean, it's funny the needle that All in the Family was able to thread by playing off of that. Yeah, it's okay to be racist in the early 70s, so we're going to be racist, but we're actually saying "fuck you" to racist, which is like, whoa.
Like they're actually punching down on the bigot.
Yeah,
it's
weird.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if people have the nuance today to pull that off.
Well, and you can argue whether they pull it off or not. There are some people that get pissed about it, but it seems to mostly be in the realm of the sort of adult cartoons these days. But South Park does it.
What are adult cartoons? Oh, you mean Family Guy? I think adult
not
cartoons.
Like porno. I mean, cartoons that really aren't meant for kids, which was a sort of Simpsons type invention, and they've taken it further and further and further.
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt Family Guy or the Family Guy or South Park both do that kind of stuff still. I mean, they have numerous racist type remarks and whatever, and people don't take them in the same manner. Now, maybe that's because it's a cartoon, you can get away with more. I don't know. But some of it could be just that they also make fun of themselves constantly, and that's part of it.
So what's your career trajectory? What's next for Maria?
Where can we catch you? Tell us what.
Actually, can anybody catch you anywhere? Or are you guys? I mean, obviously no stand up yet, right? Unless you're zooming it.
There are Zoom stand up shows. I haven't really been focusing that much on them just because I like the feeling of being in the room with people when I do stand up.
And you've got your Cuomo work to do.
Yeah, it just feels weird over the computer. So
well, you don't get the feedback, I'm assuming. Is that not a problem?
I'm not sure if like you can't, the ones that I've done, you can't, hear people laughing. Some of them you might be able to hear people laughing. I don't know, depending on what platform you use, but I don't know. It just doesn't really feel as fun for me. So I haven't really been doing stand up, but I'm hoping like before this all started, I was about to start pitching a TV show, and I'm like hoping that I can like move into that direction of doing that, because I've like worked really hard on it and then just everything stopped, so I couldn't pitch.
Can you talk about what the TV show is?
I think I'm gonna keep it.
Okay.
Yeah, don't give anything away anybody can steal from you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool though. But then after everything opens, people can find you at clubs around New York, or probably, what's your usual?
Yeah, probably performing around New York, doing stand-up, and then on social media, you can see where those shows are.
And you're going to keep doing Cuomo for the time being. How often do you do Cuomo typically?
I've been trying to recently do 3 videos a week.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, so I think I just put out the 10th one.
Oh, wow. Okay,
nice.
So and the 10th one, like we said, was the boyfriend's leaving. Or the boyfriend left.
Well, I actually just did a Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo one this morning.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Have you put that out yet?
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll have to catch that right after this.
Oh, that's funny. Well, this has been great, though. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on so long, too. I wasn't really sure. We were kind of like, what do we talk to a comedian about? But I do think, to me, it's very interesting, the sort of nature of comedy. And just that kind of thing. Actually, I do one thing I'll tell you real quick, and Cliff and I do this too. We say we're closing and then we're not. But Ellen DeGeneres once was talking, and they asked her about, I know what they said. The interviewer said, do you know you're funny? Like, do you realize do you know when you come up with like a good thing, do you know it? Like, or when you're saying it? And she says, not really. She says, usually I'll say stuff, and sometimes I'll say something, and then in my head I'll go, ooh, that was really good. that because she's sort of improving, and it did make me think of the political stuff we do too, Cliff, because it's true. Sometimes you'll come up with stuff that falls flat, and sometimes you'll have a zinger, and just in your head you're like, I don't know where that came from, but I'm glad I said that. I
don't ever know where it comes from.
But it really is. Actually, Cliff is more the comedian than me, and if anything, he's toned himself down for the political shows because they're so serious. But Cliff is like vulgar political comedian extraordinaire. But I mean that lovingly. I mean, he used to write.
Thank you. I try.
No, I had
in a different life. That's what I would do.
But he was, though. I had a big blog in the 2000s. It was one of the big Democratic blogs, and Cliff would write a weekly column, Cliff's Corner, that was just over the top, vulgar and funny about the political events of the week. And it's just, I've always been curious as to where that comes from, and I think it is. It's like any artistic, gene or any artistic part of your soul that some people are just born with it. And like you said, cultivating it is one thing, but there's clearly just something in people who are funny that's just there. And I don't know. I mean,
yeah, sometimes I feel like when I'm working on a joke, I know I'm like, okay, this is where people are going to laugh. And then I try it and people laugh at like a different part. And I'm like, why did they laughed at that part? That I wasn't intending for that to be funny. That was supposed to be funny, And then I'm like, oh, okay. You have to just kind of like always be in dialogue, I guess.
It also feels like, there's a few comedians back when we could go and see them live, which we hope will be again someday soon, who I've seen, and they will be like in one scenario, they're hilarious. In another scenario, the audience totally isn't into it. You realize so much that it's the timing, which may be a little off one time. I mean, if you're split second off, it may be the audience, because, people love, like, people claim we're all, we all just do our own thing. But the truth is, you see the person next to you laughing, and that's a cue that you should be laughing too. I mean, I'll never forget when even 20 years ago, seeing Adam Sandler in two different sort of scenarios. And once he stood up and was absolutely hilarious, and in a different place, like people were almost booing him off the stage. And it was like the same material.
Yeah, I've done that so many times. Like I've done material, the same. I had 2 shows one night. I did the same exact set. The first show was awesome. People were like going crazy. Loved it. I went to the next show, did the exact same material, and it was like dead bombed. I was like, what?
What is that though? I mean,
I think it's that stuff. Yeah. I think it's the I'll let you talk. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'll just say again, to me, it feels like often it's the energy of who's in the room matters a lot. And it's the energy of like, how much energy do you have on that occasion? Are you still like, are you still hitting your marks and kind of making I don't know, but let you talk about it more because you're better than me. Go ahead.
No, it's true. Like it depends on all those things. You're right. Like sometimes the audiences is if like there's not a loud person that loves to laugh that kind of like gets people going, then maybe people are like more timid about laughing, or it could just be they're not into that kind of material. It's just a different audience and like they don't like your material. Yeah, I know. And then it also is like your own energy. I know that after like just like as a comedian, you're gonna bomb a million times, and that's just a part of your life, and you just have to deal with it. But like I remember after doing that one show, I was like, should I quit comedy? Like I was like, oh my god, like that was so bad.
We've all been there, by the way, with anything we do.
And it affects me for like future shows. I was like, okay, it's okay, I can do this. Like it kind of like becomes a part of you, those like bombs, but you gotta like work past them. But
so before we let you go, can we maybe get you to do one Cuomo type impression?
Except she doesn't speak Cuomo.
I don't have his voice though.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So I have to go through.
Like how do you?
John grabbed you for this, and I'm excited about it. But I'll admit I haven't seen the what you've done.
God.
But now I'm going to go watch them all. So
well, you know what I'm gonna. Go on.
Because I just have to have his audio. That's
yeah. Well, you know what?
I got you.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try. I hate this. It makes it so much harder, but it's worth it, especially because yours is so visual. I'm going to try to grab one. Probably the initial boyfriend clip is my favorite. And I'm going to try to grab maybe half a minute of that and throw it in to the video at the beginning so we can show people. Well, I'm going to give the links anyway. Yeah. I'm going to give the links in the podcast. I'll give a link or two to one of your performances, so to speak. And Cliff, I mean, it's the first one. I think the first one was Cuomo going off about, and mind you, he's doing his daily coronavirus briefing, right? And he starts talking about the boyfriend. You see, the boyfriend's with us. And the thing about boyfriends is you got to like the boyfriend. And he's talking like this. I like the boyfriend, but if you're the dad, you have to say you like the boyfriend, even if you hate the boyfriend. But I do like the boyfriend. And I mean, he's going on. That's literally the dialogue for a minute or two about the boyfriend and making meatballs for the family.
What was he talking about?
That they were all quarantined at home together and the boyfriend was with them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Daughter's boyfriend. But imagine 2 minutes of Cuomo going off about his daughter's boyfriend and how, again, you gotta like the boyfriend, because if you don't like the boyfriend, then you get, what does she call it? Boyfriend derangement syndrome or something. He goes, then they love the boyfriend. And
yeah,
and he's going on, and you could see staff looking kind of imagine the staff going, oh my God, shut up. It was a whole 2 or 3 minute riff on the boyfriend. And and of course the daughter probably was sitting there going, Dad, shut up. Let alone the boyfriend. So she does all the characters, and she's got her doing lip sync, and the boyfriend sitting there kind of there with one little hair drone on his chest with a marquee, whatever you call it. Anyway, I hope for all of you, and Sarah too, and Alyssa's doing her own thing, but I really do. I hope for all of you, this is just such a boost to your careers, because it's just so goddamn funny.
Thank you.
I mean, I guess the question for you, I'll let you go with this though, but the question for you is, where do you go with this? Is there anything you can do with this going forward? Not just Cuomo, but you know what I mean? Like, have you thought about that? Like, is this just a quick detour that's really funny and put you even more on the map, and now you just go back to what you're doing, or maybe continue?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I would hope that some politically related comedy show like The Daily Show or something would have you do some of this and grab you for it.
She's going, yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, I would hope like they're looking out
Daily
there
Show
for
works.
talent.
Yeah.
You know, like you're here and you're obviously doing a great job and you're funny as hell. So come on, guys, get on this shit.
Now, tell people how they can find you on Twitter, Instagram, etc.
So all my social media is just my first and last name, Maria DeCotis, MariaDeCotis, and just my first and last name.
Straightforward, easy to find. I just followed her on Twitter, folks. You can find her. It ain't tough.
Yeah.
And they'll find all your video, at least, the videos on Twitter and Instagram. And then, as we said, once things open up, if people are in the New York area, they can just sort of keep an eye out for your comedy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I think, I say this worked. Wait until this is over and I see if the video actually exists. Otherwise, it was really nice.
It was a fun conversation.
It was our own Zoom cocktail hour.
That happened to me like the other day. I did an interview for a news station, and she didn't record, so we had to redo it.
Well, we better have recorded this shit, John.
I know. Well, I'm hoping
it says it's recording.
It says it's recording, so I'm hoping, we'll see. Actually, okay, the last quick funny thing, and then I'll let you go, and then I've got to do another ad. One of the neighbors down the block, Lita, I think she said she's like 70, 72 or something, and really sort of eccentric, fun neighbor who has multiple cats and feeds every dog that comes by. So my dog loves her. Everybody, because if you know anything about like cleaning, like the not supermarkets, the dry cleaners and stuff will give little treats to the dog, so every dog comes in. They remember it. So Lita's there, and she's telling me how she goes, oh, you're Greek. Did I tell you my Stavros story? I'm like, no. She goes, well, remember I told you I was always in love with Telly Savalas, who was like a big star from the 70s, Greek-American, and very Greek. And she always wanted to meet Telly, she and her girlfriend, when they were at school, Columbia or NYU, somewhere in New York. So they pretended they were journalists, and they found they were filming on the street, and they introduced themselves to Stavros, his brother, who was on the show, but a lesser character, and introduced themselves to him and said to see if maybe they could weasel their way into interviewing Telly. Well, Stavros has them back to his hotel, puts them in the hotel room. Mind you, this is the 70s, so I shouldn't say so it's totally on the up and up, because then it was probably even worse than Me Too stuff. But Stavros was a gem. In the room, would you like room service? Are you hungry? She goes, at that point, then we were kind of fucked. She goes, so I pulled out a pad. She goes, we're students, undergrads. So I pulled out a pad and I'm interviewing him. And I was like, Lena, you should have anyway, it made me think of it, what we were just talking about. But, but I was like, God, you should have submitted that to
I know.
At
that's
that
a
point,
story.
That's a great story. And then and then Stavros, if he was interesting, all the better. What a great, and actually, and he probably would have liked it once he found out. I mean, he might have been pissed initially, but I just love the idea of them pretending they're journalists. It made me think of doing this, of having our own interview that no one's going to see. But
so I would do this later, but I almost feel like that Maria has to be here for this, John. I was just looking for, what we would talk about.
Our next ad?
No, I was looking about what we talk about after, and
yes,
and it is being reported right now, and I'm not making this shit up, that a group of monkeys escaped by attacking a laboratory assistant. They escaped with a batch of coronavirus blood test samples, and they're now climbing around in Delhi, India. Basically, we're seeing the beginning of Rise of the Planet of the fucking Apes. And we're going to all be gone soon, folks, because the apes are taking over.
The actual movie, Cliff, is 28 Days, which is a movie about the end of humanity because some chimpanzees are liberated from a lab by a bunch of animal rights activists, and they're liberated with this virus. That is the movie.
So we've had murder hornets, locusts, coronavirus, monkeys carrying coronavirus samples. I mean, I don't even know how you do comedy anymore in this fucking world. It's either... In any case, there's a bunch of them. I'm looking at a picture sitting on a motorcycle.
Monkeys?
Seriously. Literally, they're sitting on a motorcycle eating fruit from a box there. And apparently, they've got coronavirus samples.
And they're going like this.
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
That's the world you are all living in now, friends.
Oh, God.
Wow.
I got nothing.
All right.
Maria, that's the toughest part about comedy is finding the parody today. It's insane.
God. All right, we'll let Maria go, and then we'll keep continuing for a little bit. Maria DeCotis, like we said, you can find her on Instagram and whatever else the other thing is.
Twitter. She said Maria DeCotis, just her name.
And I'll link to, and well, you'll be able to find her because I'll link to a couple of her comedy sketches doing Cuomo anyway in the description of this podcast, so you'll be able to check her out. Maria, lovely.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. You've been great.
Thanks so much for being here, Maria.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your private podcast.
You sign off because I have no idea how to even get rid of you. So
I'll sign off.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Oh, that was. I like her.
That was a lot of fun.
She was. Well,
awesome.
You wonder. I mean, you know what I wonder? Actually, I should have actually asked her this too, because you wonder with comedians. I wonder, do they have this public persona and a private persona where privately they could be really shy, but publicly they're outgoing?
Right.
Which now we can't ask her because we already asked her to leave. But
I've had comedians actually tell me that before. I think it depends on the individual. But there are some people, it seems to be almost the reverse of the way it is with most people, who are most comfortable up on stage and much more uncomfortable in sort of more intimate, smaller groups, which seems to be the opposite of what most people, right? I mean, public speaking is one of the biggest fears that people list, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing ones where public speaking was listed above death.
As a bigger fear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I was nervous the first few times. And then if you get up in front of, I just speak at one of my graduations,
right.
And you get up in front of a lot of people. It's amazing how that you just like, oh, it's just like normal, no different. There's just a lot of people out there. But in any case, it's interesting.
Cliff,
we all should learn whatever skills we can before the coronavirus monkey
apocalypse. Exactly. And
what else do we have besides apocalyptic monkeys? We've got.
Well, did you see
since we went on air
this morning? Oh, now what?
Well, let's get to that. But I'll say in more of the breaking news category, or when people hear this.
Now what?
Since we went on news, Trump tweeted something encouraging violence from the official White House account.
Yes.
And not just his personal one, which already had a tweet removed. He's now done it from his official White House account.
It wasn't removed, just so you know.
Well, Twitter
went halfway. Twitter, what Twitter did was they put up a warning. I believe they hid the tweet with a warning and said
they have a warning there instead of it. How do you get to the actual tweet?
Oh, there should be. Well, okay.
Maybe I'm just too dumb to figure it out.
Well, actually, we know maybe they did finally remove it. Because originally, they put up a warning, and I believe it was behind the warning you had to view because they said this tweet glorifies violence, which is against, because he used a famous quote from the 60s, I guess, which I didn't know the quote, was, if there's looting, there's going to be shooting. Meaning, if you loot, we're going to shoot you dead, the authorities. And it was from like the 60s, like, you know, it was clearly a racially tinged comment to start with, right? And of course, it is, again, talking about the looting going on in Minneapolis. Twitter put up a warning about it, so Trump decided to double down and tweet it from the White House official Twitter account. So Twitter put up another warning, but then they did say on the White House one, because we believe this tweet is in the public interest or is of public interest, we will not be removing it. So they kind of, they also arrested a CNN reporter this morning.
Oh my God,
of course, crew. Yeah.
Who's not white. Whether that had anything to do with it or not, I'm suspicious it did, but I can't say.
Did you see the video?
I didn't, no.
Oh God, you've got to see the video, Cliff.
From what I've heard, he just was asking, like, where should I line up? Where should I, take, and they just arrested him.
They were, it was African-American Omar Jimenez, maybe? Latino last name, I think Jimenez. But he's African-American, because I Googled, I wasn't sure. And he and his crew are there. Basically, they had the cops had swept the streets. There was looting. There might have been rioting, fires and stuff. So the cops had cleared the streets. There's like 100 state police there, but there's not mayhem going right now. Now they've got the streets under control, right? So there's like 100 or 50 state police behind them. They're surrounded by like 8 state police, but the reporter and his crew from CNN, they're live on CNN broadcasting. He's one of their correspondents. And what had happened was one of the earlier cops had told them, yeah, you can broadcast from over here. Because they said, we're covering this, we don't want to get in your way. Well, these guys didn't like that they were over here, so they were going to arrest them. And he said, officer, we're filming live. You're on CNN. We just want, and he didn't even actually push the CNN angle too much. He was being very nice. Like, I would have been like, do you understand you're on, right? He said, where would you like us to stand? We were told to stand here. We'll move wherever you want. What is safe that isn't in your way? They kept not responding until finally put his hands behind his back, handcuffed him. Mind you, the crew is filming this live. Number 2 producer now or whatever. Well, I think they get the cameraman. So the cameraman puts the cops are fucking idiots. Cameraman puts the camera down on the ground, facing them. Well, the cops oblige and don't realize that the cops now are totally in the angle of the camera, handcuffing the second guy on camera. So then the cop picks up the camera and is walking. So now we're getting video of the troops. Oh my God. Well, they got released within 2 hours. The governor had to apologize because it was the state police. But you're watching this, and I've got to say, I mean, I don't want to say it's more, because it's not more shocking than someone getting killed, of course. What was shocking to me was it's one of the things where I complained on the last podcast, Cliff, about how I don't like it when you don't see the whole video. I don't like when they only show the ends of the videos where someone's getting hurt or whatever, or someone's being irate and you don't know what provoked them to be irate. In this case, it's a long segment that something about it, I was just going, oh my God. And then when I realized something else black, I was like, oh,
I'm going to tell you something else that's even potentially more horrifying.
Huh.
Okay. That also is out here. What
Monkeys
I'm not
with coronavirus?
What I'm not going to do is share names or anything, because this hasn't been confirmed. I'm going to share what we know is true and then tell you what we don't know. Okay. So my friend Matt McNeil, who hosts a radio show, the progressive radio show in Minneapolis radio. Great
I
guy.
know his name. Yeah, I know his name.
No, I go on his show sometimes. Sent out a picture the other day, tagged me and other people, and said, we need to identify this man. And essentially, there's a guy. It literally looks like it's out of like a movie. Okay, like the symbolism of it. He's a white guy. Right away sticks out. He's in this crowd. It looks like a lot are African Americans. He's in a black suit, has a black umbrella up. It's not raining, but he's got a black umbrella up, and he has a gas mask on to conceal his face, it looks like.
Right. And
there is video now of him literally, he's not looting anything. He's just walking by a store with a wrench, smashing windows, one after the other, as somebody participating in trying to get a riot going, or whatever you want to consider.
Well, that's an interesting question, was he a provocateur?
First of all, that again is not 100%.
Yeah.
But in this video, he's not running inside the store. to take anything.
Right.
All he's doing is smashing windows and engaging in that behavior. There are people now on Twitter who are showing pictures, and it looks similar. All I can say is it's not confirmed yet, claiming it's one of the police officers.
Oh.
That would be insane. And again, I don't want to give false information. We do not know yet.
They're going to have to prove this.
They're going to have to prove it. It has not been confirmed.
Yeah.
It has not been proven. Go yourself and look, because the pictures of the close-up, even with the gas mask, he looks a lot like one of the police officers. It may not be him. And I'm careful to never share anything to cast appropriate doubt.
Exactly. Just to
so
be
let
safe.
me cast the appropriate doubt on it and say, absolutely, we don't know. What we do know, though, is somebody very suspiciously dressed, who clearly was a provocateur of some sort, no matter who he was walking around smashing windows and seemingly trying to get to do his best to add to and to whatever the melee was going on there.
Right.
That's insane. There's so much insanity going on right now. I mean, it's it's like almost like we don't have, it's like we're talking about this. Oh yeah, that's right. Over 103,000 people are officially dead from coronavirus. And let me give you this, John.
Give me.
I'm looking for it in my Twitter feed. I don't want to just guess the numbers. I want to get them to you definitively.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll see it in 1 second. This is coronavirus cases. Here we are. Okay, so here we go. You do the math on this and see if you believe what Governor DeSantis of Florida is telling you. We've known that he, first of all, already spiked information, tried to hide information coming out from nursing homes showing more deaths in Florida. The same with Kemp in Georgia. These are fundamentally dishonest people, immoral people. They are Donald Trump. They just run states right now. They want to be president. Here's the information. According to the CDC, this was from May 27th, so it's a day or two old, but this is from that day. So far this year, Florida has had 1,762 deaths from COVID, while it's had 5,185 from pneumonia. Here's the punchline to this. The average pneumonia deaths in Florida from 2013 to 2018 from the same time period are 918.
A year?
Yes. So normally Florida sees 918, but they're saying so far this year they've seen 5,100
in 5 months. In 5 months. Well, actually, which let's pretend it's not coronavirus, so that would be 1,000 a month. So they're looking at 12,000 for the year versus 900.
Ron DeSantis, if it really is pneumonia, Ron DeSantis has somehow created a pneumonia plague in Florida that's killing people there and nowhere else.
Unbelievable.
The more likely scenario, I'm just going to go and spitball here, is of that 5,185, you're looking at 48 or 4,900 of them are people who have died from COVID and they're hiding it.
Yep.
Maybe more if you think about it. So,
wow.
That's why they say 103,000. I wouldn't be surprised if more. I mean, that's just Florida, and they may be not counting nearly 5,000 cases.
Yeah, imagine.
Imagine if you do that per capita. The rest of the. I mean, I don't think other governors are lying the way DeSantis is, but in other big states, Kemp in Georgia, I bet is. Abbott in Texas seems to be. I wouldn't be surprised if we're already at more like 150.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to play this really cute little game of what Trump was claiming, which was a lie, was, the example they gave literally was, people are falling down stairs and breaking their neck and dying, but because they had COVID, they're calling it a COVID death. That never happened, right? So even like this, they would try to pretend like, well, it wasn't the bacteria, it was the pneumonia from the bacteria. And actually AIDS works this way, where we were sort of taught to say somebody didn't die of AIDS. They died of complications associated with AIDS.
Right, exactly. It's like, would they have died if they hadn't gotten AIDS? That's really all that matters.
Right, because what happens is for example, you could get certain diseases and illnesses that you only get if you have a compromised immune system. So by having AIDS, you would get back. I mean, not to go all through. Anyway, there were lots of really gross things.
But there's other ones, and there's other ones that you get. That if you didn't have a compromised immune system, it would be able to effectively fight them off.
Well, no, correct. But my point is you would die of like a rare cancer with AIDS because you had AIDS. That's why the rare cancer took hold. But today they would say, that's not AIDS, that's cancer. And they're trying to do the same thing with the coronavirus, except that they actually haven't even pointed. I have yet to see even one good example of something that wasn't a legitimate coronavirus death. As you
Right.
said, everyone, even Fauci, everyone said that they're clearly, they've got to be underestimated. I mean, our Sanjay
Well,
Gupta,
some
they've gotta be
are
underestimated.
probably by mistake, but clearly some are quite on
By
purpose.
intent. Yeah. 12,000. It's only 12 times the normal pneumonia rate in Florida.
Right.
And pneumonia, by the way, at least in the past, but still is a concern for elderly, especially.
Sure, it always
which
is.
which makes you wonder again, because he didn't want to release the stats from the elderly homes, and
it could be much worse than that. Just Florida and Georgia and Texas are kind of lying in those three very high population states.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, which
in any
also,
case,
go on. Anyway,
good.
Yeah.
I was saying now we've got Trump on Twitter in his violent,
Okay. What's he doing
encouraging
now?
violence. He literally is quoting George Wallace. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm not sure how you can make it any easier for people to make the argument who this guy is than quoting literally the most racist, divisive figure in politics. I think people would say major figure in politics in the last 50 years.
Actually, tell people who George Wallace is while I pull up.
So he's a former segregationist, and back then when Southern Democrats who've now all become Republican, were the right-wing racist variety. He was a Democratic governor of Alabama, famous for trying to block integration of schools, had a famous segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever, as he stood outside of the university and tried to block its integration. Eventually went on to run in a combination of sometimes in Democratic primaries, but also as an independent, the American Independence Party, which was pretty close to just being a fascist party, for president numerous times as a third party, so-called Democrat, but socially extreme to the right Democrat. And so that's George Wallace for you. Again, the quote is,
he's trying
the
to
quote
change the
here,
topic.
here's the actual quote for you.
Yep.
When the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Right.
That is what Trump quoted.
Right.
Every time you think Trump cannot find a way to become more despicable, if there's anything he's good at, it's becoming more despicable because he finds a way.
The other thing he's good at is deflecting attention. His entire Twitter stream over the last 12 hours is craziness about this and other stuff. He's trying, and he's actually kind of pulling it off in a way. He's trying to distract attention from the 103,000 dead.
I don't know, man. I don't watch cable most of the time, but my wife the other night turned on quickly just to check after the 100,000 remark. CNN. Right. We're watching Erin Burnett, not known to be a liberal, by the way, probably a center-right Republican of the never Trump.
Oh, is she a little Erin Burnett, a little to the right?
I mean, she came from the markets. She was a market person. She was at CNBC.
Right.
She's definitely, and she was ripping at Trump, horrified. They had a doctor on there who was literally as close as you can be to blaming Trump for all these extra deaths. You had what's his name? Sanjay Gupta.
Right.
No.
Sanjay Gupta is the big doctor.
Sanjay. The first name I was mixing up. Yeah. He was doing the same. I mean, again, Trump may be deflecting some attention, but the whole half hour of that show was just nonstop kind of the situation we're in and how bad Trump's been. So,
wow.
I don't think I know what you're saying. Yeah. I don't think he is fully, however, diverting attention. And again, we're going to pass the World War I death numbers pretty soon, which are 116,000. Right. That's going to be a whole nother round of this kind of stuff.
Right. Well, and it actually gets even more complicated because the big thing Trump is doing now, he's pushing to, he keeps saying revoke Section 230. It's actually a law. It's a provision of law, so it would be repeal.
Is that in the 12th article of the Constitution?
You wouldn't, revoking 230? No, but Section 230, very complicated, but Section 230 is the area of law or the law dealing with the fact that publishing platforms like Twitter, or back in the day, Blogger, or back in the day, GeoCities. Remember places where we would put up our own websites? Or today, Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere that you put up your profile, Instagram, and it basically held them harmless from lawsuits based on the content their users were posting. Right. So meaning it's not Twitter's fault if someone says something racist or whatever. Now, as I recall from the blogging side, it protected us running blogs, for example, that if somebody was being nasty in the comments. Now, what I recall was I thought that we had a duty to help if contacted. So if someone contacted me and said, I'm being slandered, I'm being libeled, or they published my home address or whatever in the comments of your blog, please take it down. I would take it down. A, because I saw it. B, because I cared. And C, because I could. It wasn't like it was 1,000 things a day people wanted me to take down and I couldn't physically do it. But I basically what they said was, you can do Good Samaritan work, so you can occasionally take stuff down to be good, and that still doesn't make you responsible for every fucking thing that's been published. Because there was the danger there too. Well, if I'm starting to edit some stuff and I haven't edited everything, then I can be sued, right? So that's what Trump wants to get rid of, because basically he wants to make it so anybody can sue Twitter and everybody else for anything anybody says about them. And of course, the problem is Trump keeps bringing up, in the executive order yesterday, it was actually very interesting. The executive order it's very complicated, but he specifically mentioned Adam Schiff, and he said,
Shifty Schiff.
Listen to what he said, Cliff. You came down on me for allegedly, grossly elevating violence, and Adam Schiff had a tweet last week about the fake Russia probe, and you didn't take his down. And it was like,
oh my God.
But I mean, that's the kind of crazy ass shit he's doing. So basically, anybody who has said anything about Trump regarding Russia, like we have, and I still believe, and the Russia probe, which by the way, the Russia probe found that Trump committed multiple felonies, that right there, Trump says is worthy of Twitter taking down. I mean, so Can
you imagine him in a different country that didn't have any of our democratic tradition and safeguards? I mean, he's no better than all these.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. He's no better than all the current group of ghouls running countries like Brazil and Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Russia. And I mean, we just have been able to hold him in somewhat more check here. I mean, the question is how long we can do that, which is why we need to get him out of office.
Oh, we're fucked if we don't win the election. And I'm not just saying that as one of those, we always say that with the elections. This country, this country's already in trouble, and I don't know what we're going to do to come back from this. Because as we said before, actually, we could even have a little discussion, then maybe quit, because we've been going hour 15 now, so we could probably quit in a minute. But it reminds me of the discussion we had the other day about, will Biden go after Trump, and should he? Not go after, that's the wrong phrase. Will there be any kind of national reconciliation commission that looks at all the things Trump did and tries to figure out how to reverse the bad things, but also figure out how to stop all of these abuses, the abuses Rick Grenell is doing now with Director of National Intelligence, this kind of vile stuff Trump is doing. How you stop that in the future. And the problem is that, by the time the election comes, we could have 200,000 dead. And we could be in the throes of, wave 2 of this virus. The economy could still be in a depression for that matter, because you know what? I ain't going to a restaurant or an airplane anytime soon. And there's a lot of people who think like me. I'm really scared of that stuff. And I'm kind of waiting until this is over and I get a shot. I don't even know when the hell I'm going to be comfortable getting on a plane again until I'm vaccinated, right? It is going to be very hard to reopen up the economy and have people come back other than in crazy states. And I was raising this because, help me.
I don't know. We were talking about the election or something.
I'm forgetting. I hate.
You're saying I was saying we need to get rid of Trump, or when we have an election. But that's where you took off from. So
I know. I hate that when you inspire me, but then I also lose myself as I go.
Well, everything you said was a good point.
Anyhow. It was a good point anyway. Yeah, I don't remember where I was going with the election, but it was just. It's just. Yeah. I mean, he's. I can't remember now. Oh no, we were saying about what we do after the election, what Biden does. And I absolutely understand where Biden, first of all, Biden as Biden. I think Biden's got some Obama in him, in the sense of wanting to bring people together. Absolutely. Yeah. Obama probably
had a speech today, by the way, on Minnesota, which I expect he'll probably strike a lot of those themes about bringing people together.
That should be good.
I'm saying, I'm agreeing with your point. That's what you do if you're a leader and you want to bring people together.
Yeah. But I worry that Biden is going, and honestly, he's not wrong, and that's what scares me here, that Biden is going to get elected. God forbid he better get elected, but that Biden's going to get elected and he's going to say, we can't first thing out the gate launch investigations of the Trump administration. We can't. We just can't. Because then it's going to look like that's all we got elected for when we're in the middle of a depression and we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, you've got a lot of stuff to fix. I mean, again, it's that sort of catch-22 about our country that gets you, it sucks in that way, and yet it's necessary, which is...
felonies, Cliff, the felonies. They could go after him for the felonies once he's out of office.
Every time there's a switch of power, we want it to be peaceful. We don't want the next guy, the first thing he does, or hopefully next woman, coming in and investigating the one that came before because they're from a different party. That's how countries are not democratic. Right. And yet, a lot of the people that and I've got a lot of complimentary things that I often say about Obama, and I understand why he was in such a difficult situation. But not holding anybody accountable and saying and making it clear that what was done was criminal with torture and certain other things meant that it was going to happen again.
Right.
And this is even that much worse than all of that. I mean, this guy has corrupted every part of the government, every part of our democratic traditions, firing IGs left and right. And that I don't know how you don't do something about that, because if you bend over so much in one direction so that you say, well, we have to adhere to every democratic norm. We're not going to, we can't prosecute the guys that came before us. But then there's nothing to stop people from committing crimes because they know no one's ever going to prosecute them.
Yes, but for example, what you would do is you could fix the kind of things you're talking about without prosecuting. We would have to tighten up the IG law so that the president can't fire them, basically. Or
I see what you're saying. I mean, there are ways to do some of that stuff. Yes.
I mean, but because I just think it's going to be very difficult to prosecute. And again, I'm talking practically speaking, but I'm also talking what is smart for a Democratic president coming in who wants to keep his job and wants to not be a one-termer where everything and then we lose Congress and then everything goes to hell.
Right. I think in the end, though, sadly, I think in the end it's going to be up to attorneys general anyhow in states, because he's going to pardon himself and everybody else.
Yeah.
And while it's questionable whether he has the power to pardon himself, whenever it's questionable, they get away with it. If it's not clear you can't do something, they do it anyhow, whereas we never do. And we never push it and hold them to account for it in whatever ways we can. So knowing what Trump, he's going to pardon himself, his kids, his whole, everybody. It's going to be up to the state of New York, the District of Columbia, the state of Maryland, places like that, state of New Jersey, places where there are Trump properties where he's clearly committed crimes, to hold him responsible.
Right.
So this may be all moot conversation, because I don't know if Biden is even going to have the ability or not Biden, but the Biden administration, the Justice Department under Biden.
Right.
So there is that.
But
too.
they'd be able to change that memo, for example, about the president being indicted. I mean, there's a lot of.
Yeah, but that's while the president's in office. He won't be in office anymore.
No. What I mean is fix it for next time, but the next time.
Yeah, they can fix a bunch of stuff for the future.
That's what I mean.
We were talking about. Yeah, of course, they can pass a whole lot of legislation. They did after Nixon.
This guy's got to be held responsible. He's got to be. I agree. He's got to be held responsible. But if
he's not held responsible, then after all of this, then none of our laws mean.
But again, I see the political problem with it, though. I don't mean that in a crass way. I mean, I think you really have a problem with people out the gate thinking, people are dying. The whole point of getting elected was to have a president who actually focused on the problems, focused on the 200,000 dead at that point, and not just on vendettas. And then all of a sudden, the Republicans who spin things better than we do are able to spin.
But I don't have a problem. I agree with you, but do you have a problem? You see a political problem with Letitia James going after him? I don't.
Who's she?
Attorney General of New York.
Okay. Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
And really, New York has so much power because so many of his money laundering and other crimes have been committed there.
Oh, excuse me.
And there's no statute. I don't think there's a statute of limitations that's gone by on a lot of the stuff he's done. Right. So, I mean, she could prosecute him for the foundation, the business, all these other things, all day and night long. Quite frankly.
Right.
And my guess is other attorneys general, depending on where he's done things in major Democratic states, considering that's where a lot of the banks and the investment banks and places are located.
Right.
So, yeah,
right.
Florida won't. Under DeSantis.
No.
Obviously, he could be there. That's another place that could. But if we elected a Democratic governor in 2022, Florida, or Attorney General. I think in Florida, no, the Attorney General is elected separately. I think in Florida, if we elected a Democratic Attorney General in 2022, there too.
Right.
So,
right,
we'll see.
Wow.
Look out for rampaging coronavirus monkeys.
Coronavirus monkeys. Yeah. All right. Today's Friday though, so yeah, let's see. I don't even know if we're doing Monday or Tuesday next week. We'll see. Oh, and the dog sounds like she wants water, so timing is perfect. She's been sleeping until now. She's a little lazy.
We'll figure it out. That was a good hour and a half podcast.
I know. Let's see if it actually recorded.
Hopefully it recorded. You have your wonderful content, folks. We hope you enjoy it.
Ooh.
And
all right,
we'll be
I'm
back with more interesting folks.
Pause. Stop recording. All right, folks. We're about to give it a try. Nice seeing you. Or not.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.